Welcome back to the Cozy Rosy Crochet channel, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how to make this Granny's Bobbly Blanket Square. This is quite a large square and it has a finished size of 12 inches from side to side, and of course, like any other square, you can stop whenever you want and you've made as large a granny square as you want. This has a couple of stitch variations in it, including some spike stitches, the granny spike stitch, and it has some puff stitches in it as well, just for good measure, to give you a bit of a variation on the traditional granny square. You can find the written pattern over on my website, and I've linked that in the description box for you below, and the pattern uses Aran weight or worsted weight yarn. I've opted to use 3 different colours, so this is colour A, colour B and colour C, and I used Stylecraft Special Aran. Has a recommended hook size of 5mm, which is the hook size that I will be using today, and I've made it with 100% acrylic yarn. So colour A, I'll be using silver, which is shade number 1203. For colour B, I'll be using plum, which is 1061, that's the shade number. And then for colour C, I'm going to be using cream, which is 1005. You don't need much yarn to make each of the squares. For colour A, you're only going to need about 60 meters. For colour B, about 40, and colour C is also about 40 meters, for a total of 140 meters per 12-inch square. If you want to, you can grab some stitch markers to keep an eye on those corners, but they will become quite apparent very quickly. And of course, you are going to need some scissors and a darning needle to snip those ends, as we're going to change colour each round. You don't have to, you can opt to use as many or as few colours as you want, but I'm going to be using these 3 because that's how I wrote the pattern. So gather all of your materials and let's get started. We're going to be using colour A first. So I'm going to be using my 5mm crochet hook, and I'm starting with colour A. So we're going to start with a slip knot on our hook, and we're going to make a chain of 4. So we just yarn over and bring the hook through the loop on our hook 4 times. So that's 1, 2, 3 and 4. We're then going to slip stitch into that first chain that we made, just by inserting our hook underneath that top loop of the chain. We yarn over, bring it through the first loop and the second loop, and that creates a ring. Now we're going to work into the centre of that ring, and we need to make sure that it's the centre and not where we've slip stitched, because we're going to work the whole way around that so that we can pull our tail at the end to close the centre. So we're going to start round 1, and this is going to be the right side of our project facing us. We start with a chain of 3, so we yarn over, pull through 3 times. And this chain 3 counts as a US double crochet, which is the same as a UK treble crochet throughout this pattern. We're going to work into the centre of that ring, not that top hole, but the middle one. We start by yarning over the hook, and we're going to work a further 2 double crochets, that's US double crochets, into the centre of that ring. Show you that again. So we yarn over, insert into the centre of the ring, yarn over, bring a loop up, pull through 2, and pull through 2. We're then going to yarn over to work a second US double crochet into the centre, so right into where we'll work it before. That's pull through 2, pull through 2, and that counts as our first granny block. So we have 1, 2, 3 double crochets because that chain 3 counts. We're then going to make a chain of 2 before working 3 double crochets into the centre of that ring to create another granny block. We yarn over, insert, bring our loop up, pull through 2, pull through 2, and for a second time make another double crochet, and for a third time. So now we have 1, 2, 3 double crochets again. We're going to make our chain of 2. We're going to repeat that, working 3 double crochets and a chain of 2 a further 2 times to complete round 1 and to make our four corners and our 4 granny blocks. So that's 2 and 3, make our chain of 2, and for a final time we're going to work 3 double crochets. That's number 3. We make our final corner by making our chain of 2, and we're going to join to the top of that chain of 3 we did at the beginning. So there's chain 1, chain 2. This is the stitch that's associated with that one. So we need to go into the top of our chain, pushing through to get 2 loops of our chain onto our hook, and we slip stitch to join. We're going to slip stitch across the next 2 stitches, so we insert our hook underneath the stitch to slip stitch, and again across the next stitch, and we're going to slip stitch into the corner, and then we're ready to continue on to round 2, which is also worked in colour A. We're going to start by making a chain of 3. We're going to work 2 double crochets into that same chain 2 corner space. So this is number 1, and then we're working number 2 into the same chain 2 corner space. We make our chain of 2 before working into the same chain 2 corner space, working 3 double crochets. So that's 1, 2 and 3. We're going to chain 1, step over this block and work into that next chain 2 corner space, repeating the same corner, which is 3 double crochets. So that's 1, 2 and 3. We chain 2 to recreate that corner space. We then work a further 3 double crochets into the same chain 2 corner space. This is number 3, and then we make a chain 1 to complete that corner. We have half of our square, this round, made. We're going to repeat that a further 2 times, so we're working 3 double crochets, a chain 2 followed by 3 double crochets and a chain 1 a further 2 times. So this is my first block of 3 double crochets, chain 2 to repeat that corner space, and then work back into the same chain 2 corner space with that second 3 double crochet group. That's number 3. We chain 1, and then we're just working that a final time into that last chain 2 corner space, working 3 double crochets, a chain of 2 and a further 3 double crochets, all into the same chain 2 corner space. And that's number 3. Have to remember to work our chain 1, and then we can join to the top of that beginning chain 3 that we made. So chain 1, chain 2, there's the 3rd chain. It's a little bit tiddly, and we're just going to insert our hook through the middle, picking up 2 loops of that beginning chain, and we are going to slip stitch to join without splitting our yarn. And then we're going to slip stitch across the next 2 stitches into that, and then into that chain 2 space. Slip stitch into 1, into the next, and then we slip stitch into that chain 2 corner space, ready to fasten off. I'm going to make a little chain 1, because that creates a nice secure knot. Snip my yarn, leaving a nice long tail for weaving in later, and that completes the first 2 rounds. Going into round 3, we're going to be changing to colour B, which for me is plum. And you can join in any of your corners. So you want your chain 2 corner space. You've got 4 to choose from. And I am going to do my nice little cheat, which is just bring the yarn colour through, and to secure it nicely, I simply leave a tail long enough and make a knot, just to secure it. I can then work over that end as I work my first corner in this colour. We're going to begin round 3 by inserting our hook into the chain 2 corner space and bringing the yarn up. We're going to make a chain of 2, which does not count, and we're going to be working our puff stitch in round 3. For our puff stitch, we are going to start by yarning over the hook, inserting into that chain 2 corner space. We yarn over and bring up a loop, and we're going to do that 4 times. So that's number 1. Yarn over, insert, bring your loop up for number 2. And you want these loops to be quite big. You want to be able to almost see the light coming through those loops, because you're going to have to yarn over and pull through all of them. So that was number 2. We yarn over, bring a loop up for number 3, and for a final time, yarn over, bring a loop up for number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops. We should have 9 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pinch at the bottom of the stitch to create a bit of space to bring your hook all the way through, and that completes your puff stitch. We're then going to make a chain of 3, so 1, 2 and 3, before working a second puff stitch into our chain 2 corner space. So we're going to make a second puff stitch by yarning over and bringing up a loop 4 times. So we'll yarn over, we're going to reinsert into the same chain 2 space. So that's 1, yarn over, bring a loop up, 2, 3 and 4. So now it looks like you've got loads on your hook. And we're going to yarn over and pull through all the loops on our hook. Pulling down will help create some space, and if you need to help it through your hook, through that loop on your hook, don't worry too much. And after that puff stitch, or the second puff stitch in our corner, we make a chain of 2. We're then going to work a puff stitch into that chain 1 space from the previous round. So we're yarning over, inserting and bringing a loop up 4 times. That's 1, 2, 3 and 4. You see my movements look quite exaggerated, and that's to help create that space to yarn over and pull through all the loops on my hook. Once you have got your hook through all of those loops, we're going to make a chain of 2, and we are back to our chain 2 corner space, and I'm going to work over this tail from the previous round as well. So into our corner, we're going to be repeating this where we have our puff stitch, a chain 3, a puff stitch and a chain 2. So yarn over and get ready to insert into your chain 2 corner space and bring your loop up 4 times. So that's 1, 2, 3 and 4. Yarn over, pull through all 9 loops and chain 3. We're going to work a second puff stitch into that same chain 2 space. So we yarn over, insert, yarn over and bring a loop up 4 times. That's 1, 2, 3 and 4. Yarn over, pull through all your loops, and this time we're making a chain of 2. We're going to work a puff stitch into that next chain 1 space. That's 1, 2, 3 and 4. Pull through all the loops on your hook. Oops, and then chain 2, and it's going to give us this lovely texture. It's actually double-sided, the puff stitch. I really like it for that reason. So we're going to repeat our puff stitch corner once again, making sure you've done your chain 2 after your last puff stitch. So we're working a puff stitch, 2, 3 and 4, pulling through all the loops, and then we make a chain of 3, and then we are going to work a second puff stitch before pulling through all the loops, and after that second puff stitch we make a chain of 2. So we're going to repeat that again, working 1 puff stitch into the next, followed by a chain of 2, before working our puff stitch corner into our final corner once again. So we're working 1 puff stitch into the next chain 1 space, followed by a chain of 2, and into our corner. I'm going to get some more yarn ready because you need a lot of these puff stitches. Into our corner we're working a puff stitch, a chain 3, a second puff stitch and a chain 2. Oh, I think I dropped a loop there. Let's try that one again. That's a bit better. So a chain 2 after that second puff stitch. In that final chain 1 space we are simply working 1 puff stitch and a chain of 2. That brings us back to the beginning of the round, and we need to join to the top of the puff stitch, not our chain 2. So that's actually your chain. You see how you get a nice space at the top of it? That's the first chain. It's that stitch just there we need to join to. And we're just going to slip stitch into the top of that puff stitch, she says, and then we can fasten off. So I've made a little chain 1, making sure I've got a nice long tail to weave in later, and pull that tail through. Doesn't look entirely flat right now, but it will be fine. Oh, I don't like that. What is that? Oh, that's that. Doesn't look very square right now, but I promise you it will be once we work our next round. So at the end of round 3, you might be looking a little bit twiddly, but it will be fine because the chain spaces are sufficient, give you enough spaces to work your next round of stitches. So for round 4, we're going to be using colour C, which for me is cream. It's not intentional, I promise. And we can join colour C in any chain 3 corner space. And again, I'm just going to tie my new colour on, just so I don't have to worry too much about it coming unconnected whilst I'm working. So once your yarn is secured, you can insert your hook into your chain 3 corner space. We're going to yarn over and bring our loop up, and then we are ready to make a chain of 3. We're going to continue working into that chain 3 corner space, and we're going to work a double crochet, and we're then going to make a spiked double crochet 1, which means we're going to insert our hook 1 row below our current row to complete our double crochet. So it's like a spike stitch, but it's not a granny spike because it's not in the middle of the granny stitch. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to insert our hook 1 row below our current row. So this is our current row space. So we're going to go into the row below, which is all the way down there. So instead of going into here, we're going 1 row below. We're going to yarn over and bring that yarn up. I'm going to make sure it's not too far away. And we're bringing it up to the height of our current row before we yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over and pull through the next 2. And that completes that special stitch, which is a double crochet spike, or a spike double crochet 1, because we're only 1 row below. We're then going to make a chain of 2 to give us our chain 2 corner space. We're going to repeat our spike double crochet 1, so we yarn over, we're inserting our hook 1 row below, which is actually where that last stitch was worked. We yarn over, bring our loop up to the height of our current row, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. We might need to move this stitch out of the way for the next one because we've got to work into that same chain 2 corner space. So it's just sat behind the spike stitch you've just worked, but we need to work 2 double crochets into that same chain 2 corner space, which is just there. So there's the chain 2, or chain 3 should I say. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, bring our loop up, pull through 2, pull through 2, so that's the first one. We're going to work a second double crochet into that same chain 3 corner space on our current row, and it should look a little bit like that. So you've got the 2 spike stitches coming into, sorry, excuse my tail hanging at the back there, into that chain 2 corner space below, and into our current row we have 2 double crochets worked into that same chain 2 corner. Once you've worked that second double crochet, we're going to make a chain of 1, and then we're going to continue on to our next chain 2 space where we're working a double crochet. We are then going to work a spiked double crochet 2. So we're going to work that spike stitch 2 rows below. So we're going to yarn over. This is our current row, that's 1 row below. So this chain 2 space 2 rows below where we are currently. So we're yarning over and we're going to insert our hook all the way down here. So we've yarned over, we're inserting our hook, find the yarn, bring our loop up all the way to the loop to the height of our current row. we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 and pull through 2. You can see how much further down that spike goes. That shouldn't be twisted, sorry. We're then going to work a double crochet into the chain 2 space behind that spike again. So we yarn over, insert into that chain 2 space between our puff stitches and work our double crochet, and we then chain 1. So it's going to be looking a little bit like that. So you've got your spikes into the space below your corner and your second spike into that chain 2 corner space 2 rounds below. I keep saying rows, but they're actually rounds, aren't they? Make sure you've done your chain 1 after your last double crochet, and then we're going to repeat this in our next chain 1 space. So we start with our double crochet as normal. We're then going to work that spiked double crochet 2, so 1, so current row, 1 row, 2 rows below. So we yarn over, insert our hook all the way down into that chain 2 corner space, bring your loop up to the height of your current row, pull through 2, pull through 2. We're then going to work a second double crochet into that same chain 2 space from the previous row. So it looks a little bit like that. And we're then going to repeat our corner into our next chain 3 corner space. I nearly forgot. Make sure you've done a chain 1 after your final double crochet, and then we can work our corner. So we're working 2 double crochets. So that's 1 and 2. We're going to do a double crochet spike 1 row below. So we yarn over, insert into the chain 1 space below our current row, bring your loop up to the current height, pull through 2, pull through 2, do your corner chain 2, and this time we're going to work that backwards. So we start with our spike stitch 1 row below. Make sure you bring your loop up to the height of your current row before completing, and then you need to find your corner space behind to work a further 2 double crochets. So that's 1 and 2. It's so pretty. I love spike stitches. They work so well with the granny stitch. Make sure you do your chain 1 after your final double crochet, and then we are back to working our spike double crochet 2, working 2 rounds below. So I'll do another one with you. So we work a double crochet before we spike 2 rounds below, which is all the way down there. So we yarn over, kind of bend the project, insert your hook, bring your loop up to the current height, pull through 2 and pull through 2 before working a double crochet into that chain 2 space behind your spike. We chain 1, and then we're ready to repeat that again, working a double crochet, a spike 2, so 2 rows below, 2 rounds below, yarn over all the way down there into the corner opposite. Oops. So hard to grab that yarn. Bring the loop up to your current height, pull through 2, pull through 2. Find the chain 2 space that you worked into with a previous double crochet to work your next double crochet, and then we chain 1, and we are back to that corner once again. I'm going to show you the corner one final time and then leave you to work the last bit. So into, making sure you've done that chain 1, into that corner space we are working 2 double crochets. That's 1 and 2, and then we're going to work our double crochet spike 1 round below. We chain 2 before we work our spike 1 round below, sorry. And then we're going to find that corner space, which is now hidden behind the spike, to work 2 double crochets. That's 1 and 2, and we make our chain 1. We're then going to work our spike 2, so double crochet, spike 2, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, spike 1, double crochet, chain 1, repeat the corner, and then repeat the side once more to complete this round. I've just worked my final side and I've done my final chain 1. I'm we just need to join to the top of our chain 3 with a slip stitch. And then we are ready to fasten off. I'm just going to slip stitch across to my chain 2 corner space because I just always do it. And then I know that all my ends are in the same place. Always squeaking, sorry about that. And then I'm going to fasten off. Colour C. And at the end of this round, we should be looking a little bit like that. Now, if like me, can you see how that is dipping? It's nothing serious. It's just the tension on, see, it's fine. I want to give it a bit of a straighten out. It's just the tension on that second double crochet. It's my own fault. I was probably a bit tight on it, but there's enough give in our chain 1 spaces to allow us to make that square without worrying too much. Isn't that pretty? A little bit different from your traditional granny square, but it really is very nice. So we're going to be joining A in any chain 2 corner space. I lost colour A then for a moment. Let's grab that over. So I'm just once again going to tie colour A onto my square. It's probably frowned upon. I've always done it and I just think it makes it a little bit easier without having to worry about the end falling off. So once you've joined in any chain 2 corner space, we are going to make a chain of 3. And we're working a traditional granny square corner for now. So we're going to work a further 2 double crochets. So that's 1 and 2. We're going to make a chain of 2 before working a further 3 double crochets into that same chain 2 corner space. So that's 2 and 3. There we are. So we have our normal granny square corner. And we are in fact working a very boring granny round. So we're just going to make a chain of 1 to step across, ready to work 3 double crochets and a chain 1 into each of our chain 1 spaces across. So there's my 3 double crochets. We're going to chain 1 and repeat that into the next 2 as well. So that's 1, 2 and 3. We chain 1. Work another 1 into the next chain 1 space. So another 3 double crochets I should specify. And we chain 1 and we're back to our corner. We are essentially doing a granny round. So we're just going to work our normal granny square corner into this chain 2 space. So that's 3 double crochets. A chain of 2. And a further 3 double crochets. All into that chain 2 corner space. We're going to repeat this the whole way around. So we're working a chain of 1 after our corner, and then into each chain 1 space across, we're working 3 double crochets and a chain 1. In our chain 2 corner spaces, we are working 3 double crochets, a chain 2, 3 double crochets and a chain 1. So continue to work your traditional granny all the way around this round, and I'll meet you at the end of round 5 to join. So I've worked round 5 and I'm just joining to the top of my chain 3 once again, pushing through to get 2 loops onto my hook and slip stitch to join. I am going to slip stitch across the next 2 stitches and into that chain 2 corner space. I just like the way it looks. And then I'm going to make a chain 1 to fasten off. And at the end of round 5, you should be looking a little bit like this. For round 6, we are going to repeat round 5 once again, but with colour B. And then for round 7, using colour C, we're going to repeat round 3, which is our puff stitch round. So continue on to work round 6, which is a repeat of the round we've just made, and then repeat round 3 with colour C for round 7, and I will meet you for round 8. At the end of round 7, you should be looking a little bit like this. Mine's curling up a little bit once again because of those puff stitches, but don't worry too much. For round 8, we are going to use our other special stitch. We're going to join colour A into any chain 2 corner space. we are going to start by working a chain of 3. We're then going to work a double crochet before we work our spiked double crochet 1 into that chain 2 corner space 1 row below. So we yarn over. Instead of working into that current row, we're going 1 row below. Bring your loop up to the height of your current row, pull through 2 and pull through 2. We're going to chain 2 for our chain 2 corner space before we repeat our spike stitch. So we yarn over, insert 1 row below, bring your loop up to the same height, pull through 2 and pull through 2. We've got to locate that corner once again. It always seems to disappear after we spike. There we go. And we're working a further 2 double crochets into that same, what would be a chain 3 corner space, won't it? After those puff stitches. So you should have that lovely spike stitch corner there. We're going to make a chain of 1. In this side, we're going to be working our granny spike stitch. So our granny spike stitch is very similar to what we've done here. It's just that it's mixed around a little bit. So we start with a double crochet into our next chain space. We're then going to work our spike into the middle stitch of the 3 double crochet 1 row below. So instead of working into our chain 1 space, we're going to yarn over. Our first one is actually hidden underneath our corner, by the way. Just going to move that out of the way so you can see that that's got 1, 2 and 3, 1 row below, and we're going to work into that middle double crochet stitch. So we yarn over, insert into that middle double crochet, bring your loop up to your current height, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then we work a double crochet into that same chain space 1 row below, or for our current row. So your granny spike looks a little bit like that. So you've got a double crochet, your spike into the middle double crochet, 2 rows, 1 row below, and then you've got your double crochet after that. We then chain 1. So let's do another one together. So again, you can see that our puff stitch is over that first of the 3 double crochets, and we're going for the middle one. So we're yarning over into our chain space. We're working a double crochet. We then work a double crochet into the middle double crochet of the group, 1 row below. So we yarn over, work into that stitch, bring your loop up and complete your double crochet. And then you're working a double crochet into that same space. You have to make sure that you make your loop large enough so that it does allow that space either side to be seen. Otherwise you end up that you're just bringing that row up tighter, and this row that we're currently working will pucker down, and without the extra kind of added length, you'll distort the shape of your square. So we're going to make a chain of 1 after we've completed that granny spike, and we're repeating that the whole way across. So a double crochet into your next chain space, then you work your double crochet into that middle double crochet of the 3 double crochets below, bring your loop up to make sure that there's no tension on there, and work a double crochet into the chain space again, and then we chain 1. So repeat that across to our next corner, which is all the way over there, and I'm going to meet you so that we can repeat our corner stitch once again. So we're doing a granny spike, working into that middle double crochet, followed by a chain 1 all the way across, and I'll meet you in our next corner. Once you've worked all the way across to your next chain 3 corner space from your puff stitch row, in our corners we are working 2 double crochets, and then we're doing our spike 1 row below, we chain 2, and then we're working our spike 1 row below, and then we're finding our space once again to work a final 2 double crochets in this corner. We then of course chain 1, and then we've got that beautiful spiky corner and our lovely granny stitches. So we're going to repeat this the whole way around, working our granny spike into each chain space across, or chain 2 space across, and into our chain 3 corner spaces we are working that 1 spike corner. So continue on to finish up round 8, working your granny stitches and your 1 spike corners, and I will meet you for round 9. I'm just joining the end of round 8 with my slip stitch and just slip stitching across into the next chain 2 corner space. And I can show you the finished look. So at the end of round 8, you should be looking a little bit like that, and you have those lovely granny spike stitches as well. I really like them. For round 9, you're going to repeat round 5, which is our granny stitch round with colour B. Round 10, you're repeating round 5 once again with colour C, and then I'm going to meet you for rounds 11 and 12. We are nearly there and nearly completed our beautiful square. So continue on to work a repeat of round 5 with colour B, and then repeat round 5 once again with colour C, and I'll meet you for round 11. At the end of round 10, you should have quite a nice, large, even square, and we are going to go straight into round 11. And round 11 and 12 are both worked using colour A. Once again, we're going to join into any chain 2 corner space. I'm just going to cheat once again and just tie it on. And into our corners, we are going to work a chain of 1. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and we're going to be working 2 half double crochets. So for a half double, we yarn over, insert, yarn over, bring our loop up, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So that's 1. We're going to work a second into that same chain 2 corner space. We're going to make a chain of 2 to maintain our corner, and we're going to work a further 2 half double crochets into that same chain 2 corner space. So that's 1 and 2. So that's our corner done. We're then going to work into the top of each stitch and chain 1 space across. So the first thing I'm going to do is move my corner out of the way so that we don't miss that first of the 3 double crochets in that group. It likes to hide underneath your corners. So we're going to yarn over, and we're working into the top of the stitch, working our half double crochet, and we're working into each stitch across. So that's 1, 2, 3 for that first group, and then we're working into our chain 1 space as well. So make sure you do 3 across your granny stitches. So that's number 2 and number 3 before working 1 half double crochet directly into that chain 1 space. So continue all the way across, working into the top of each stitch and into each chain 1 space, and I'll meet you at the end for our next corner. Once you've worked into the top of each stitch and into each chain 1 space across to your corner, into your corner we're going to be working 2 half double crochets. So that's 1 and 2. We're going to make our chain of 2 before working a further 2 half double crochets into that same chain 2 corner space. So between each of your chain 2 spaces, can't quite fit them on screen, you should now have 43 half double crochets, and then of course you've got your chain 2 and your next 2 for your next side. Remember to make sure that you move your corner out of the way to find that first stitch to work into before you continue on to repeat that all the way around. We're working 1 half double crochet into each stitch and into each chain 1 space across to the corner, and then we're working 2 half double crochets, a chain of 2 2 half double crochets before repeating it all the way around back to the beginning of our round. So I'll meet you when we join round 11 and ready to move on to our final round of round 12. We're going to be continuing in colour A, so don't fasten off, and I'll meet you for our next round. So once you've worked all the way around, working your half double crochets into each stitch and chain 1 space, you'll end at the start of the round, which will be at the start of the corner. So we're not going to slip stitch across to the corner. Instead, we're just going to join to the top of that first half double crochet of the round, and we're going to go straight into round 12. So for round 12, we start by making a chain of 1. And I'm going to be encouraging you to work into the 3rd loop of your half double crochets. So if you're not familiar with this stitch, the half double crochet makes a really clear 3rd loop. It's actually 4. You can see the loop on the front and on the back, but we're going to be working into the back 3rd loop. So from the stitch that we are in, that we have just joined, I'm looking at the kind of wrong side of my stitch, and you can see that there is a couple of loops at the back here, and it's the loop that, sorry, my eyes, I've got my glasses on, let me take those off. So you can see where we've just joined, and there is a parallel loop just there, and that's what we want to insert our hook into. There's the next one, because there's our chain 2 space. So you've got a parallel line, and that's the 3rd loop. So instead of inserting your hook underneath the stitch like we would normally, we're going to kind of rotate the project towards us and insert our hook into the 3rd loop. To show you what that does is it leaves the whole stitch visible on the front of your project. So this row that we're working now is going to be joined to the next square. So when they're joined, you'll end up with this lovely ridge of stitches that you can see. And it just literally leaves the whole of your stitch. So your front loop and your back loop will be visible when they've been joined. So you can see it more there. And these have been joined into the 3rd loop. So to find the first one, it's going to be underneath where you've joined, and it's going to look like it's running parallel to where you're working. So we need to yarn over the hook. I flip it forward just so I can see where I'm going. If you need to, grab your darning needle just to make that first 3rd loop looser and easier to get into. For this round, we're simply working US single crochets, the same as a UK double crochet. So we don't need to yarn over. You can see your slip stitch there. So there's the loop, it's just to the side of it. So we're just going to insert underneath the loop, yarn over to bring your loop up as normal, yarn over and pull through 2. You can do it so it's facing you properly if you want. I'm just doing it so you can see. So there's your next 3rd loop. So you've got the vertical line here, and then the 3rd loop is the one that's parallel with your stitch from the front. So once you've inserted, you bring your loop up, yarn over and pull through 2, and it leaves the front of that stitch perfectly visible. This is kind of a practice one because we're into our corner already, and into our corners we are simply working 2 single crochets. So that's 1 and 2, a chain of 2 and a further 2 single crochets. So that's 1 and 2. There's no 3rd loop available on our chains, so we can't repeat that beautiful pattern, but now we have a whole run to practice on. So let's find the next one. You can probably see it sticking out right away. So we've got that parallel line that we're ignoring, and it's that, not that parallel, vertical line we're ignoring, and there's our 3rd loop. From the front, it will leave your stitch, your lovely V behind. So instead of going under your stitch as normal, you're just rotating slightly to pick up that 3rd loop. So I just kind of bend mine forward, and the 3rd loop is just kind of visible in line with your normal stitch. So pick up, yarn over, bring your loop up, pull through 2. Once you've got the first couple down, it makes it much easier to visualize where that third loop is. And it leaves the front of your stitch completely untouched. It gives us that beautiful pattern along the front of our granny squares. You can see already that it's got almost looks parallel. Remember, these stitches are going to be used to join to the next square. We're just repeating this the whole way around, picking up that third loop and working a single crochet. If you get a bit lost, look for your normal kind of top V that you go underneath. Ignore your front loop, your back loop, and there's your third loop. We're just going to continue to repeat that the whole way around to our next corner, and I will meet you there once again to work our next corner. So once you've worked all the way across, working into that third loop and you're to your next corner, because there's no more parallels to work, we're just working 2 single crochets. So that's 1 and 2, a chain of 2, and a further 2 single crochets. We're then ready to find that first third loop. So there's the front, the back, and there's the third. And we're just repeating that the whole way around this square so that we end with this beautiful edging all the way around our square. I'll meet you once you're all the way back around. It might be a while because it's going to take me a while to do these, and then we'll fasten off and weave in our ends. So once you've worked all the way around back to the beginning of the round, we're just going to join to the top of the first single crochet of the round with a slip stitch. And in true form, I've lost my scissors, so we're just going to use a different pair. Can't even see them on the floor. Bring that end up, and that completes our square, sort of. We do need to weave these ends in. I'm going to go away and do mine. I hope you don't mind. Let's swap them over to one that I finished earlier, where that is the wrong side and all the ends are woven in. You're probably wondering, how can I tell it's the wrong side? Because they are, all the stitches that are used are mirrored. And it's all about that middle round. So you can see the pretty side of the squares compared to the not so pretty side of the stitches, not the squares. But I really hope that you've enjoyed making this granny square variation with me. I really like these spike stitches. If you wanted to turn it into a bigger blanket, you would omit these last 2 rounds and start back. You would start by repeating from round 3 all the way back up to round 10, as many times as you want to create that beautiful blanket. Thank you so much for joining me for this tutorial. Don't forget to send me a picture of your finished square, and I will see you in the next video.